Gus, being Gus, had called ahead of my release to get a jump on all the paperwork and thus be ready to roll as soon as they arrived to pick me up that morning. As we departed New York Presbyterian Lower Manhattan Hospital, Lorraine said that she and the girls had already packed up a few of my things for the stay at that upstate rehabilitation centre. That was good, since the lunch reservations Chris's daughters had booked for the three of us were at a restaurant in the city, and we'd certainly be pressed for time if I had to return back home to pack. My oh my, handling the reservations the way your mother would. You two are adults now. Where is it we'll be celebrating your birthday? It's some place that you and Mum had been to, but it's a surprise. The table was booked for noon. Since we had a bit of time still, we navigated traffic slowly in the direction of where the eatery was situated in Greenwich Village. Somehow along the way we ended up where New York University was located and took a leisurely drive around its various campuses. I was amazed by the number of NYU buildings Noika and Anya knew by name as they pointed them out to me. After about 20 minutes of educational institution sightseeing, our neighbours told me they planned to do a bit of shopping while we ate, but would then pick us up again for the drive upstate. As the car slowed and we pulled up to the curb, my heart skipped a beat or two, as it had done various times before for an assortment of reasons over the years. When I saw where we were, it was the place where Chris and I had that failed evening away from the twins when they were still preschoolers. The same night I'd been officially adopted by the entire Wojciech family. The original restaurant had long since closed its door, but as dining establishments are prone to do in the Big Apple, another one had opened in its place. Tears filled my eyes as we were dropped off outside its doors. It was now an upscale, casual kind of place, and we were seated and provided with menus almost immediately by a hostess so lovely she could have been a Broadway starlet, and who knows, perhaps she was, and simply in between productions at the time. It was New York City after all. An equally beautiful waitress came by the table asking if we'd like a drink before our meal. "I'll have a Coke, please, and may I have one too?" But before I could order, they told our server in unison, "Our dad's having one too." I knew better than to protest. Nodding my head, I acquiesced in agreement. We then placed orders for our food. Both girls wanted Cobb salads. When the attractive server looked over at me, I said I'd like a cheeseburger, cooked rare, with American cheese and fries. The poor woman hadn't taken 2 steps away from our table to let the kitchen know what we wanted when the twins stopped her dead in her tracks. "Please scratch what he just ordered. Bulletin in from Central Headquarters. He's having what we're having. And if you give him anything with alcohol, my sister will claw your eyes out. You got that?" Anya, who was studying her fingernails, looks up and makes a weak swiping gesture, using the fiery red, polished, carefully manicured, long and tapered talons of her left hand in the direction of our server. Parting her lips to bare her gums, she hisses at the woman like an annoyed cat. The waitress backed away from our table in a combination of brief confusion and mild amusement. "Dad, this is serious. We're going to beat this thing together, because you know it's what Mum would have wanted. And if that's what we're going to do, we have to start here, because you can't afford to put this off any longer." Those words were my kryptonite. Not that they harmed me, but I had no defence to argue against something which I knew was so straightforward and true. I was going to beat this. This invincible support team, comprised of what remained of my family and friends, refused to let me fail, so I in turn could not fail them. And maybe you haven't figured this out yet, and why it's so important. Guess we'll just have to spell it out for you. We love you, Dad, and we want to make sure you're around long enough to one day walk both of us down the aisle if we ever get married, okay? Feeling like the luckiest dad alive, but wanting to change the subject before I broke down and burst out bawling my eyes out, I asked, "Now what was it you said you wanted to talk about tonight?" Looking at one another like cats that swallowed canaries, they both lost the grim and solemn expressions they'd recently worn on their faces. since my second heart attack. Chris's daughters then shot a pair of mega million-watt, ever-so sunshiny, ear-to-ear smiles my way. You're not going to believe this, but we've both been accepted at NYU and classes begin next month.